brighten other people's world with a smile, all of a sudden the world brightens up around you. It's like reciprocal. It's so interesting. And it's something in psychology that I don't want to talk about more because I don't have the studies in front of me, but it's something about us having a good attitude and keeping a good attitude around the people that we are having or around with that makes us so much better at whatever we want to do. Let's stop fighting beliefs. Stop fighting beliefs and let's try to find common ground. We're all on this planet together. According to statistics, it's the person who's mediocre that actually advances further. I'm more interested in the top 10 richest men in the world, and Bezos, who I can't get over this joke. I've been saying this joke, and if somebody says it on the Oscars, you know what I'm saying? The man can get divorced and is still the richest man in the she took half and he's still richest man. Come on, Bezos, you got this. You know what time it is, folks. That's right. It's time for more In the Hot Box with Doc Rio. And today we're coming in to talk with a legend. I call him a legend, just because he's a legend in my neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? But first, before we talk to this legend, Mr. Robert Graves, I just want to start off by saying welcome to In the Hot Box Live. This is a show that talks about the lifestyles, the culture, and the community inside the Los Angeles Hot Box. So that's the main thing that In the Hot Box Live is all about. That's how In the Hot Box started, to get back to that. But before we get started on this show, I just want to send out my condolences to those who have lost loved ones during this pandemic. I know it's hard. I know it's hard for a lot of people out there, and I just want to say I know that if we stay strong and we listen to medical professionals and we keep faith in whatever we believe in, I believe that we can all make it through this. So I also want to send out my prayers to those who are ill and are fighting this virus, and I pray that you all get back in safe health, and make it through this time. I'm gonna adjust that screen so it doesn't look so bad for y'all in just a second. But at the same time, before I get there, please let us all take a moment of silence for those who've lost loved ones during this pandemic. Thank you. Thank you all who participated in that moment of silence, moment of remembrance. Since this is a new segment of In the Hot Box, it's a little similar to the radio show that I did before. So some of you might already know this. Those of you who've seen my radio shows before, you know the format of this. But this time we're here to talk to Robert Graves. Now, he's the Director of Operations at Disabled American Veterans, otherwise known as the DAV. He's also a Marine Corps veteran. What's that?
California.
Of California. Yeah. Let me make sure. Of California. And he's also a Marine Corps veteran, a husband, a father, and a producer of a podcast called Year of the Vet. So welcome, Robert. Welcome for coming in, and thanks for correcting me. I appreciate that because I hate making mistakes like that. Go ahead.
No, it's good. One, thank you for having me and asking me. And I know that we've been talking about collaborating for a while. So you took the initiative, and so that thanks for kicking that off. And I do, to kind of sum it up. And I know I don't want to touch on DAV stuff enough, but a lot because I know I'm not here.
Oh, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk a little about it though, because that's what you do too. So.
However, I have to preface anything I say about DAV and what happened that I'm not as an ambassador for DAV always. I'm not here as a DAV representative. That's all I just kind of want to say. So
okay.
And it's weird even having to be a person that has to establish that right off the bat. So it's a new venture for me in this world. And that world mixing, so it's fun. But thanks for having me on, man. And I'm looking forward to being on the other side of the microphone for once.
You're usually on the other side of the microphone, from what I hear before. But before we get to that, and before we jump into that, I wanted to give you two sizable screens at this point, since we're both, just pretty much gonna have a conversation here. And I, like I said before, I apologize, folks. It took me a little bit to get everything together tonight, and so we're a little bit delayed. But like I said, for those just tuning in and just seeing his face, we're talking to Robert Graves. Yes, as he said, He's not always an ambassador for the DAV, but he's also a father, a husband, and a podcaster. So don't let him fool you when he says he's glad to be on this side of the microphone,
So these are my very first headphones. I was looking for something to use for this, but these go way back when. Look at this. Watch. My very first podcasting phone.
Oh, wow. You're not the only one that's got some of those.
My trieds and true.
Oh, wow. Those are beats, too. That's funny. That's real funny. Well, I know, right? I know. Well, how have you, as a parent, as a veteran as well, how have you been revamping through this pandemic? That's the first question.
It's funny. Okay, so I'm sure that every vet who's on Facebook has seen the meme where it's like what is it? Kermit the Frog. It's a person on the top. It's a 3-tiered meme, and somebody's like, "Oh, this quarantine's got me. I'm so bored." And then it says like veterans and something else underneath, right? And it's just like Kermit watching TV, like, "Oh, I can do this all day." And I was making fun of it because my wife just the day before was just like, "I'm so bored." I mean, like week one, I was like, "Look, you guys have to get used to being bored," like on week one of the quarantine. So for me, I'm busy. I have a ton of work to do with DAV. We had some really operational decisions to make that were very hard, and tried to keep things moving with working with the VA, and so there was some of that stuff going on. So my days have been filled. And then with trying to baseline the organization into an age of today where we're still a paper-based system. The organization was established in 1921, and so
yes.
I am the new generation of leadership at the headquarters level, so I get to be the person that implements a lot of this stuff. So I've got a lot on my plate. My wife, she's been doing a phenomenal job keeping up with school curriculum. We both start work in school at 8, and then about 10:30, my kid comes in. Well, he comes in many times before that, but like 10:30, he's like, "Hey, it's time to go outside. You want to go outside?" And I'm pretty much like, "Yeah, let's go outside." And it's bike and so we have 15 minutes outside or something like that. We bike in the cul-de-sac or catch or something active. I've been outside more in this quarantine, man, than I have in the last 10 years.
Right.
Yeah. And with that being said, understand, like, I live in a cul-de-sac. So by outside, like the same people, it's just, I'm not going out into Ralph's every day, stuff like that. Kind of like we're outside being responsible and doing all that stuff. But like 10:30 goes into lunchtime. Lunchtime, we both go back to work. I work till 4. And then, like, if I'm on a phone call or something, for work, I've been walking, man. Dude, I've lost like 10, about 10, 12 pounds now, man. I just,
10 to 12 pounds. Wow.
And then, at 4, we'll do, I don't know, play robots or something, go outside again, go for a walk the dogs.
And that's just from physical activity. Hold on. Got you coming back through again. But that's from just from your physical activity. That has nothing to do with like not eating right or anything. You're eating right. You're doing everything in the regular standards.
In 10 years, I've had 3 square meals a day. I'm like, I've got, I try to get down and do push-ups every hour, stuff like that. But, and then again, after work, I'll play with Jake until 6:30 dinner. We do a board game or a movie, and then repeat, man, every single day. So, but in my time, like, I have those walks to communicate with people. I talk and get my mind moving. I've been being creative with work. I would love to be more creative in the podcast world right now.
Yeah,
but,
I can understand that.
I have to pick and choose where my time goes, and that's the hard part. That's the hard part about being a creative.
Indeed. Now, let me ask you something else on this other side. So, let's talk about your journey before you even, because I know you're busy, but we got to talk about your journey a little bit here. What made you decide to join the Marine Corps? Let's start there. Look at it.
It's fun because I have the podcast. I'm not on video, so like people don't really get to see my personality.
No.
Yeah. So, shit, man. So I always thought, okay, so right off the bat, who knew what the hell I was going to do with my life? Right? I thought I was going to be a high school guidance from the time I was like this big.
What is that? A high school guidance counselor? You broke up a little bit there.
Yeah. I have no idea where that came from, but I'd always been into psychology, and I knew I was going to get into a field like that. But I played sports all my life. Mm-hmm. I'm 6'6". I'm 6'6". Mm-hmm. I played sports all my life. I wasn't great at sport, but I figured that had I been trained well enough, I could have played. I look back and I know I was coachable, and so laugh if you must, but my sport of choice is volleyball, and so I ended up, long story short, tore my ligaments in my ankle senior year. When I was playing ball, colleges were picking up. They were giving 2.5 scholarships for men, right? So that's two full rides and a half scholarship, and so it was a very competitive place, and so they don't really redshirt freshmen in men volleyball because it's not that big of a sport. So it's funny I'm about to say this, but
unless you go to beach volleyball, 2-on-2 volleyball beach, then it becomes a sport, an extreme sport at this point. It's like go ahead.
It's funny. I mean, if you fast forward 4 years, I was playing all Marine volleyball and in tryouts, and my buddy had come back to dinner that night, and I was like, "Oh man, where have you been?" He's like, "You don't remember?" And I had knocked his retina off.
Oh wow!
I hit him so hard with the ball that the retina disconnected from his eye. I mean, it's a
oh wow.
You know what? It's a fast, and it's fun, it's methodical, and there's some power behind it. So, but anyway, fast forward, go back. I tore my ankle ligaments, and so there goes my chance to get a scholarship. And I had nothing on the plate. I didn't have anybody to tell me there was, the benefits of community college, nothing. And so my best friend had joined the Marine Corps the year prior, and so my mom and I got in this huge fight, and she had kicked me out the house. I was like, I'm joining the Marine Corps because my best friend had just done it. And then my other best friend, there was 3 of us, he was like, I'll do it if you do it. And we went into boot camp together. And so there was no rhyme or reason, man, because just a month prior to that, I was like, fuck the military. I'm not joining the military. No. It was just a spontaneous thing to do that ended up changing the course of my life for the best.
I know that one well. I mean, the spontaneous thing, and then you're like, hey, I wasn't thinking about it before, but once you got in, how did your world change? I mean, how did you see the world differently?
Whoa. How did my world change? I mean,
things. To start, the very beginning, what are the things that you right after, when we talk about after training, and then you start to branch back out, because first we go to training, and then once we come out of training, it's kind of the first step. Most people don't get that, how when we come right out of training, how we see the world a little bit differently. So how was that different for you?
Well, So, okay, it's interesting because I stepped on the Yellow Footprint September 11th, 2000, and then I was in 29 Palms already in MLS school on September 11th, 2001. So when we went to class that day, I was standing up in the back of the classroom, and we were watching on this little TV. Stats on Morris had pushed this little TV with rabbit ears and everything. Like, we're like, oh, we'll watch this TV. Stats on. He's like, sit down and shut up. And he sits, plays his TV, and we're watching this whole shit go down. And I go, we're going to war. And like, it was the only truth I had known. Like, I go, we're going to war. And then like, we're watching, I was like, we're going to fucking war. And when we had our wish list, I said, who's going? And they said Max 4. Max 4 is over in Okinawa, so I want to go to. And so
you said you went to Max 4, huh?
Yeah. So that was my wish for all three. I said Max 4, Max 4, Max 4. So they sent me to Max 4, and we were on the island 2 weeks before we shipped out, and so I was there on the first run 10 months, and I came back. I was a knucklehead, man. I was still I was still young. I joined at 17. You could tell me nothing, and but I was smart, and I if I trusted you, I learned a lot, and I did well by you, and I'm very loyal and faithful to the people who really took me under their wing, and I learned a lot about loyalty. I mean, the Marine story. Like if you did the whole process right. Sure, you may have got in trouble, but you were under good leadership, and I learned how to be a leader. And that was let me get that wrong. I honed my leadership skills because what I learned in the Marine Corps was that they were always there. Right? So
okay, I see what you're saying.
And so, like, that sorry, that translates. No, it's fine. But that translates into I got I had a DUI before I re-enlisted, and so I got busted down to Lance Corporal, and I got non-rec'd and watched all my friends promote.
You get that court martial. I mean, not a court martial.
Later on, I got a court martial, and, and then I wasn't able to re-enlist, and it's because I thought I was going to go 20. In fact, I had just put in my warrant officer package, and I was involved in a bad fight in Okinawa where a soldier got a piece of the ear bit off, and there were fucking 10, 12 people involved in that whole altercation. I was the only person, pinpointed out as anybody, and please, if you're out there and you're interested in reading that, go to my LinkedIn, because I wrote all about it. But I keep it on a thumb drive because I've been trying to get it off my record for so long because it's affected me on the outside as a civilian.
Yes.
But I mean, as a veteran. But I learned a fantastic trade. I got out of the Marine Corps with no idea what I was going to do, and luckily I ran into my an old friend from high school who eventually became my girlfriend and is now my wife, but she was a very instrumental process in my transition because she just so happened to be a trainer or a recruiter for nerds like me, to put them in like Lockheed and stuff. And, I say that in jest because there's Marines out there that ground pounders, and you're not a real Marine unless you're a grunt, which is true, man. I give those guys mad props and all the respect in the world. But the truth is, when you're in the air wing, man, especially as a Marine, you got to be just as tough as you are as smart.
I mean, how many years did you serve though?
10.
I mean, you put in time. That's time. A lot of people didn't even get past the 2-year mark. You know what I mean? I was only in very few years, so I mean, I can't even 10 years. I mean,
I would just be getting out last February, and this last February would be 20 years for me.
Your 20 years,
yeah.
Yeah. It's a good thing. It's a good thing because you've done some other things in the community. You've come out. I mean, let me ask you something a little bit personal. I mean, and for those out there, I just want to preface this by saying this is something that normally, even veteran to veteran, you don't ask at veterans questions like this. I mean, this is just a small compared, but I mean, I usually you don't ask questions to veterans that would possibly bring back bad memories. So certain things can be unsettling to certain people. So get to know the person first a little bit before you start asking them these questions. It's something, this is something we want to share about veterans because we want you to know how to communicate with us better as well. So did you happen to lose anyone close to you while you were deployed?
Man, 10 years, people, I mean, you've seen suicide, murder, shit, man. I've seen it all. Yeah. So I mean, it's bound to happen. And even out here, I have friends out in shared space like Denver Morris, my buddy. He shares some very endearing stories at MVP, which is this organization that welcomes veterans and veteran athletes, because we share the same mindset, But his story is very public, and he's been on my podcast, and his unit, the unit he was a part of that went to Fallujah, is lost by suicide, 20 plus individuals, 20 plus. So my losses are they hurt, you can't put a Likert scale on whose is worse, but
no, not at all.
Everybody deals with loss differently, and in fact, it's so funny that we're talking about loss, because those websites that you could search for everybody's, like I could search for all your information. So when I was my son's age, 5 going on 6, right? But I was actually 4 going on 5. But when I was my son's age, I used to live out in this area with my mom and my dad before they split, right? And I've always been curious about where this house is. And where's this house? Because my mom doesn't want to talk about it, because there's history, but they split for a reason, right? So
right.
So I actually found a service today on my dad's last name, and I found the house, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah. And fuck, where was I going with this? So where my father, I lost him 22 years ago, right?
Wow.
Because I've been in the Marine Corps 20 years. He died when I was my junior summer, I think. Maybe something like that, right? Long story short, I've never, that has never affected me. And so losses today, we were doing mic check, and I told you, I was I had breakfast in honoring, well, today was supposed to be the multiple sclerosis walk in Los Angeles, or in Long Beach, or Irvine. And every year we walk on the MS walk to honor, well, even when my mother-in-law was alive, but she's passed since. And we went to the neighborhood and walked in honor of Allison today. And so you're talking about loss, and I get into these weird spaces, would be the best way to put it, because I
You don't deal with loss the same way as most people do. Yeah, same thing. It's a whole different way, and it's hard to communicate that concept to people. You know, they either get it or they just don't. I get where I totally get where you're coming from. I'm like that as well with death and holidays. For some reason, death and holidays are kind of shaky for me when it comes to that. Like Christmas, like around that time, holidays for some reason. Maybe because we were deployed all those times.
Let me preface it, or let me follow that up with how I've kind of been approaching conversations lately, which is what do you do with the second chance, right?
Wow.
You know, Kyle. Oh man, every Marine's gonna kill me. Kyle Carpenter. Who was on Jocko's? Anyway, you know what? If I'm not gonna come up with that, it is what it is.
It happens. No worries. Oh yeah. You were saying something about being a warrant officer, and what were you applying to be in a warrant? What was your specialty going to be? I was just curious, and I'm sure other people want to know.
5948 radar technician. So
okay.
Yeah, when you go warrant, you can go into the warrant officer field. We don't have any brass in our field, so that was the way to be.
Wow. That would have been you would have had it on lock because you would have been the only the only specialist, and because that's what a warrant officer usually is, a specialist. So people don't know, usually a specialist in the field. They're the technician that everybody comes to get the answers to the questions as an officer in that field. So they actually know stuff. They're not the officers that we call that don't work. So, no offense. But no, they're the officers that actually work. Everybody respects the warrant officers. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was all good. You know, it is what it is. So, what?
No, I just wanted to know about I just want to know about that. So, what? So, what was it like after you got out for you? I mean, the transition. What was that changeover for? What was the one thing that stood out for you? Just give us one main thing that stood out for you returning home as a veteran that kind of bothered you.
So, my life's an open book. I wrote this book called How to Grow a Beard, a military transition guide back into civilian life. And I wrote it on a whim, and it has my 6 years of my story of my transition. And it's funny because it was 3 years ago I wrote that, maybe 4. And I've never sat and actually put it on my own, except for maybe some pushed, Facebook posts or something like that. But I handed it out. I've given it out more than I've sold. And long story short, with that, man, it's transition for me was a piece of cake compared to some other stories I hear. Mm-hmm. And I owe a lot of that to myself, right? I owe a lot of that to my wife. Like I said, she was a recruiter for nerds like myself. So man, in 2010, I learned about LinkedIn while all you guys are still catching up right now,
wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not like I have been keeping it to myself. Because I share all the knowledge I have. That's why I'm in the position I'm in right now. And so, I had the upper hand, and I got a 6-figure job right out let me rephrase that. I got a good job that I would make 6 figures at only because I was traveling, 6 to 8 months out of the year. But
right.
If I stayed in the cube, I made 8,000.
Wow, it's not bad.
It is bad. So for
Not bad for most. I mean, when I say most of us coming out,
no.
Why you say that?
Buy my book. No.
Oh, because I know what you mean. Yeah.
And this is why, because as veterans, what we do is sit there and we're telling dick jokes in the barracks one day, making $32,000,
right?
And thinking that's all good. Get out, and then somebody pushes $50K on us, and we're like, "Oh, thank you, massa," and then you can't pay your fucking rent and your car bill
off of $50K. Yep.
Right, and live a life. And here you are. You're going to go as a veteran, and you're going to add buku value to this job because you're going to be like, look at this guy working 70 times faster than everybody that we've ever hired. And you're going to be manager material. They're going to pay you shit money and keep you as low as possible unless they have openings. And then you just you've built rapport to get
exactly
there. And that's the thing. Vets also are standoffish. They'll work hard. But if they don't build rapport, then they don't move up in the ranks. So there's this. There's this dynamic that we have to get out of our own ways. And so to say, 50K, that's great money. No, that's fucking.
Well, see, when I got out, you couldn't even get 50K at all.
Yeah. That's a misconception on our belief system of what we know. How do you know what you're worth unless you know somebody who's in there, right, to tell you what you're worth? Here's
right.
The deal. People have to interview and do the research on what the field is, right? What I knew was that, I'm a radar guy. I can make 100K, right? Why didn't I go with that? Why did I settle for 58? Because my buddy who went to Lockheed, he made 98,000 starting.
Yeah, well, I am referring to people in infantry fields, because your field is a little different. A lot of guys, I'm just saying, a lot of guys in infantry fields, the first thing they got, just be honest. When they were on their way out, the first thing we got was truck driving training, or not me specifically, but everyone.
The problem is that we have not marketed ourselves properly because we don't understand the value that we bring, right? The leadership that we bring, right, alone is worth $50,000. Do you understand?
I get that.
The management skills,
I get
the ability to analyze and assess problems and risk. And and monitor PPE and hazmat, and all that is money in the bank.
Exactly. That's new knowledge, though, that's been coming out. That knowledge hasn't been passed out like it should have been back from the early 90s was when I got out. So you look at now to then, it's something that we're pushing out to people and telling people because people didn't tell us. You see what I'm saying? And that's the difference. That's what I'm saying.
And that's what you're doing today. You're building a platform that you get to push that information out. The problem was that the individuals who had figured that out were not passing the information down.
Not at all.
When I was working, I'll tell you, I work at the DAV, correct? Here's a statistic for you. There's 1.8 million veterans plus, right? There's about 2 million veterans here in California alone. 20% of those veterans are tapped into their VA benefits. Whether those be
Wow, I did not know that statistics. 20%?
20%. That's 2 out of every 10 individuals that are veterans. And so even still, when I meet a vet and I'm like, hey man, are you taken care of through the VA? And he's like, no, it baffles me. And I'm like, why does it baffle me when I know that the statistics are that 80% of the individuals that I run into are going to say, no, I'm not.
And you know why? It took me, it took me 15 years before I started getting any type of benefit. And they told me on the way out the door, hey, start applying. So I started applying. Actually took 20 years. But I started applying. And during that process, it took forever. Actually, they lost my DD-214 at the federal building for years. And so that was one of the things, because at that time, they used to send your DD-214 to people one by one. So instead of it being like a copy, they sent the original to wherever you were. And then it could get misplaced. And they were talking about some of the employees were quitting and overturning at that time. And so things just sat on people's desks. So this idea that a veteran would just go into a place. I just be honest. I felt, okay, I could just go into a place, talk to the people, do this, and when I'm done, it'll be done, and then they'll fix it. No. You have to go back. You have to keep checking. You have to be on them like you would be on anything that you're doing to try to get anything done.
Still.
Yeah.
And that's a misconception, right? I was allowed to write the book, right, on transition because when vets asked me for help and they weren't getting through, I was getting through it. And I'll tell you, I was on the phone trying to find out something from a buddy of mine.
That's right.
About the GI Bill question or something, whatever it was. He asked me a question. I happened to have free time this one day. Get on the phone. I had been on hold for 30 minutes. Got in my car, drove down the hill to West LA, walked in on the phone, and I'm like, do you realize I'm on hold with you right now? That little blinking button, that's me. You're talking about
yeah, right?
An hour and 5 minutes out of my day to prove to you that you're a shitty person. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So people were asking, well, I don't know the question about this. I don't know the answer about this. I don't know. I would go get those answers. And so I just learned all this stuff, and there's a whole world. I'll tell you, man, the longer you stay in this realm of, if this is what you do, the longer you stay in this realm, the smaller this world gets. You're going to get involved with all the same people. Oh, you're going to be like, oh, you know Ozzy Ramirez? Oh, that buddy. Ozzy and I went to UCLA together. You know, I guarantee you're going to meet him, and like one of the best vets I've ever met. I love the guy. He does a lot for American Legion. Like I said, Denver Morris. There's, a lot of guys on my podcast. I've been really good friends with Bruno Moya. Bruno knows one of my classmates at USC, and they're from the Nevada area together, and it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then it's the same old people doing different things to help the community flourish. And if you haven't read Flourish, it's called Flourish, right?
Flourish.
I mean, that's something that changed my world big time. I wrote my thesis on positive psychology. I said, I'm a psych major. I believe in.
You said you got a master's in social sciences, right? Is that master's in sociology?
I have 2 masters. What's up?
That's right. You do have 2 masters.
and thank you.
In social work, excuse me.
Thank you guys for my taxpayers. Thank you for my education. No, but I have my first master's is in sport and performance psychology. So performance psychology. That's used a lot in a business. It's used in a lot of high stakes risk type of action events, like football players, surfers, CEOs of high level management companies. I mean. But it all boils down into the world of mindfulness and teaching people how to be more in tune with their thoughts and emotions to be able to make, in the moment decisions. And a lot of that comes from our background in the military. So
it's true. That's very, very true.
So, and then my second is in business, but the fact that like you're
okay. Then I read that wrong. My bad. I thought I saw MSW. Sorry, I read that wrong.
Oh no! I wanted to get my. I wanted to be a sports psychologist, but I couldn't afford the doctorate. It was this kind of gray area with the voc rehab program, and so long story short, just like me having to be forced out of the military and getting into this world, man, I'll tell you, God pushes you. I mean, and if you don't believe in God, whoever, Buddha, Allah,
whoever you believe in, or whatever you believe in,
yourself, David Goggins, like,
tell it.
If things happen, the truest thing I know in the world is that I don't control shit.
That's true. That's true.
Except for the actions that I do. So.
And sometimes we can't even control that, depending on what the world has us do. Yeah. So, we have to change our whole actions depending on what So I feel that. I totally feel that. And thank you for sharing that. Also, okay, let's talk about the DAV. And for those who just are tuning in, we're here talking with Robert Graves, Director of Operations at Disabled American Veterans California. Yeah, that's him right there with the DAV Guidebook. And producer of the podcast Year of the Vet. And also, as he mentioned, I forgot to mention, writer of How to Grow a Beard, the book How to Grow a Beard. So check it out. Buy his book.
I also have a blog.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wanted you to mention it, but I was going to wait for later, but that's cool. Go ahead and mention it. Bring it up. Bring it all out.
It's thescareddad.com.
Thescareddad.com. Yep.
Look, hey, I'll tell you what, like if you actually did this look into my world, it looks like I started a lot of shit and then just gave up on it.
Everything progressed.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't that I gave up on stuff. It was just like, I was writing this blog and then I started going to college, and then college and the baby doesn't give you blog time. And so then I had a job, and then there's the podcast, and the podcast means that now that the book's done, so all this stuff, and now here I'm at the director of operations, and I don't have time to do podcasts anymore. So it looks like I just quit on my podcast.
I'm dragging him out to get into a podcast. I'm like, hey. And I feel bad because I as he told me in a text message, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. He told me to take, man, you keep convincing me to do this. And I'm just like, my bad.
I said you're trying to convince me. I already said yes. What do you want?
It was more because I know you're a busy guy, and I just want to make sure that I'm not impeding on that busy, because I want to get you out, and I keep pushing, and sometimes I can be a little asshole about pushing. So I was trying to be as polite as possible, but he's like, hey, you wouldn't even be an asshole. What the fuck? Get this shit on the road.
It happens. Stop.
So yeah, I'm just glad we were able to do it. And come out here. So, I mean, for Robert Graves, I just want to know, how did you start working at the DAV? And then we'll get back to your blog.
It's cool because I'm going to sit here and eat chocolate while I'm talking to you.
Go ahead. If this was an 18 overcast, I'd vape. So go ahead. It's a teen cast, so I'm not vaping.
It's not my show, so I don't have any mannerisms.
You're a guest. You can do what you want.
Plus, I think it's pretty funny.
Oh, wow. The real Robert Graves.
Yeah. So, Mario hasn't said this yet, but we're also in a veteran fraternity together.
Sigma Tau Alpha.
So he knows me a little different than the regular everyone knows me, right? So, anyway.
Oh, wow.
I got into DAV because I wrote.
Got me crying a little bit.
And, I had, the DAV helped me. When I got out and I was doing all that, what is this? I had registered at the VA for my at VHA. Okay.
So, VHA, yeah.
And anybody listen to this, there's two different registries. There's the VHA, which is the Veterans Health Administration, and the VBA, Veterans Benefits Administration. So I'm at the VA, the hospital, and I was like, hey, mind you, again, nobody's talking to me and telling me anything. Hey,
exactly.
Do I have to register anywhere? Oh, you can register over here, right? Over there. Hey, so is this the only thing? Those are probing questions.
Yeah.
There are more, right? You have to ask that. Am I done here is not the right question. Is there more is a better question. Is there somewhere else that I need to be? Or, what do I need to do to get fully through? We don't ask proper questions. So I just happened.
I don't think we know that. And that's another thing. I don't think a lot of people know the proper questions to ask, or just don't think that they should ask them. I don't know if it's a tricky area because it's like, should we ask that question or aren't we supposed to be told that question? Or that's the confusing part.
Yeah, and I said it on one of the channels at CSUN that you helped produce. That one of our problems is that we don't know. Mm-hmm. And it's impossible. It's impossible to know
what we don't know
to ask. However, if you're persistent, you're like, okay, well, is that it? Like, is there anything? Questions like who else? If you were getting out right now, like, what would you be doing? Or if you could do this all over again, like, what done different? Like, what should I do next?
That's a good question.
What should I do next is a good question. Like, what? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Realistically, I could go on and I could talk about that for hours, but there's the VHA, VBA, and so I walked into the VHA. They told me to register for my benefits across the street.
Across the street.
Yeah. So.
Oh, you talking about the West LA one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, that was her reference.
And then they don't really tell you. They just say across the street, and there's like 50 buildings across the street. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a fort. It's it's a military installation size. So I've been to Fort Benning, and their main post is the size of the West LA VA. So that's just, I mean, I've been to many forts, but.
I was very fortunate to find across the street, and I mean, there was this long fucking line.
500 or something, building 504 or whatever.
Out of the, isn't it 1,000?
Or maybe it's why I get confused there. I think 500 is the base building, and then there's another, But I forget. The hospital,
But, so I get over there, and there's this long line coming out of the VA itself.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
But if you walk past that line, there was like this hallway, and there was the Medal of Honor Society, and then like Purple Heart Foundation or VFW, and then the DAV. I literally like pop my head and I go, hey, what do you guys do? And they hooked my claim up.
Wow.
Right off the bat. And so like, I was working in aerospace and, traveling, and my whole team was vets. And to this day, they had I can curse, right? Fucking birthday. We had a birthday Zoom for my buddy's wife. I met them right when I got out at my first job. That's how tight we are right now, And they're all vets, and they still haven't gotten taken care of as much as I got. And that's another thing about vets, man. You guys are stubborn as hell. I'm like, why do I keep working with stubborn people? Stop being so stubborn. Just take my word for it, and take my word for it. Perseverance and patience. It's gonna pay off, man. So but the DAV, and so the DAV helped me. Right back to the answering the question. The DAV helped me, and so I got a mailer, and it's like, do you want to be a member? And this was like, finally I had some money in my name, and I paid it forward. I paid my membership fee at the time, not thinking anything of it, and I got a chapter 73 mail letter, which is out here in Woodland Hills. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go to this meeting, and a meeting, and not knowing anything about anything, and I walk into an executive board meeting, which I shouldn't have, again, not knowing the process, and I just so happened to run into Dan Contreras there, who is the adjutant and the CEO of the organization, and I pitched them the book. I was like, hey, man, like, I wrote this book. I'd really love to get it out to veterans and an organization, and he's like, oh, well, I can't take the book, but and he challenged me. He goes, why don't you do me a favor and figure out a way to bridge the gap between the generations, right? Because the DAV has been around since 1921. So, if you were around in the 20s, right, then you we have old members.
Wow.
I went to the birthday party for Mickey Ganich, who just turned 100, and he's a Pearl Harbor survivor. You know, he's been on two ships that were bombed, and he spends 6 days a week with the DAV, and you know, so you know, there's a huge generation of like where the leaders who have done the phenomenal stuff are, right? They're all right now. You asked me to do this to talk about COVID-19. They're high risk. Everybody who's done any.
It's true.
Listen to this. Anybody who's done any fucking thing for this world in the veteran space right now
is high risk.
High risk, and we need to pick it up, to give it fucking back, and pick our packs up, and do what we have to do to make sure that they're going to survive, that we're going to survive, and that behind us are going to survive. And that is why I'm the fucking director of operations here, because my boss asked me to be that person and trust me with the know-how to do it. And you know, the only way I know how to do it is by being me and getting out there and telling my story.
That's remarkable. I mean, everything you just said, and I didn't even think about that fact that they're all high risk at this point. That's, you know, you forget. I mean, because we have so much going on, you forget about all these people, all these positions that have came before, and who's actually covering them. It's mostly, when it comes to veterans, it's mostly older people who are covering them.
Okay, let me please explain and further explain why that's important.
Well, tell us about some of the programs as well while you're further explaining.
Okay, thank you for that. So, I mean, okay, when you break down DAV, its bread and butter is transportation coordination, right, and claims and services. So the benefits that we're talking about is, you know, there's benefits rated. You get rated for certain type of health benefits if you rate them due to injuries and illnesses that you.
Say that again. The last part. Injuries that you've occurred.
Injuries and illnesses that you may have incurred while you were in the service. So you know, if you have been injured, gassed. If you had a sprained ankle, you know, stuff like that, if that happened, what happens with your body is, like, you know, you have an impact, you sprain an ankle, you push through it, it fuses together differently, right, than a normal person, a normal 18-year-old kid who didn't do that, and they're able to, you know, go and play beach, like you said, beach volleyball earlier, like, and go hiking. Like right now, I'm lifting my arm and it feels like there's a fork that's just like kind of jamming in there, and I've already had 2 surgeries on here. So, but that's from 10 years of doing pull-ups and trying to make PFT, and you know, I'm ahead
jumping, doing everything you got to do to train and prepare for war. Yeah.
So the problem is that like we put it off. We're all hard-headed and we're like And then on
I lost you on that last part. You said we're all what?
Like we're all going to tough through it. It is what it is, right? And so the problem is that when you get out, you know, people think, oh, disabled American veterans. I don't have I still have both my legs. They don't. They think that you need a prosthetic to be considered disabled. Look, if you have, you know, tinnitus in your ears, if you have the ringing in your ears from going to the fire range and, you know, doing all the night fires and any kind of training and, you know, any small injury, you rate to be compensated for.
Yes.
And so that's what we help with. We do help with your benefits and compensation, and that might be also benefits for
even if it's 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever percentage, go and find out. That's what I tell people.
Well, there's even benefits for, like, you know, the death benefits. Like if
yes,
you know, if I passed away tonight, you know, I had to give my wife have a death benefit guide, and we have the ability to be buried in a national cemetery.
National cemetery.
A financial burden off of your family.
Yes.
So the DAV service officers help in more ways than just get claims and benefits done. Like we connect people to our network, and I mean, right now currently we have a relief fund that's going on. If you go to if you Google DAV COVID relief, it'll take you right to the website. And yes, we know it's not much, but a buffer between you and broke is anything, so, so there's the claims and services, right? And why is that important? Well, claims and services typically, get done by either the VA themselves, a service officer, whether it's, Legion, VFW, whoever, but we specialize in it because we focus training on it. We have NSOs, which we call NSO, National Service Officers. They're hired by National. Those guys go to work in school for 10 months to learn VA law. They learn VA law inside and out. The only difference between them and VA lawyers is that they haven't gone through the bar, right? So those guys, our service officers on the national side, they take care of primarily all the claims and services requests go through them, right? But when the appeals come back, because if you went and you got your claim done at like the VFW or I don't know, Bill Smith, your neighbor, he just happens to know how to, right?
Yeah, Bill Smith ain't gonna work out.
What happens is you had a full back surgery and they're like, okay, you got 0%. 0% says yes, we'll consider this service connected. Yeah, sure, thanks. But you're not getting any money for that. You're not being compensated for that, and that's important because that takes away why it's important to be compensated is because again, if you compared your body to, in my case, a 38
age is different.
We have a different thing. A typical 38-year-old person who has been taken care of, they could do a lot. We move different. Our bodies move different. Our heads move different. Our psyche is different, and so I don't know. If a lot of this stuff happened in the service, just allow yourself to be taken care of on the back end, even if it's just gas money, or and a lot of good things can happen from being service. For instance, the GI Bill can turn into the voc rehab program, right?
Yes.
You have to be a service-connected disabled vet to
get the vocational rehab
to be accepted into the voc rehab program. Disabled veterans have the ability to get some tax credits knocked off of their home purchases. If you're 100% service connected, and that again,
you get full medical, full dental,
Look, and then you don't have to pay property tax, and I mean there's other incentives outside of just collecting that paycheck, and it doesn't make you a bad person to say I served my country. You deserve it. So it's not a fucking handout. I can't get that around people.
Amen to that.
More and more. It's not a handout. You raise your hand and said, I will solemnly swear to take a fucking bullet in the face for this country, and it's
a benefit for service.
And I just so happen to not have to take a bullet. Right? But I raised believe me, I tried. So long story short, so there's claims and services. And then we have our transportation coordination system. And so we have transportation coordinators in the major VA hospitals. And transportation coordinators, what they do is, as a patron of the hospital, let's say I just had my leg broken and they're going to do surgery on me, and I live in Lancaster and I can't drive. Right. Well, the VA, you can come to our transportation coordinator. You can say, hey, I have an appointment on this day. Can you come pick me up and bring me? We'll go get you for free, and we'll bring you to your appointment, and then we'll take you back home, all for free. And so, these are our breads and butter. But on the outside, we have volunteerism. We have program, which will turn into what I'm going to talk about in a minute with legislation. But LVAP means Local Veteran Assistance Program. And our Local Veterans Assistance Program is like, do you have a veteran in your neighborhood that, you know, you've walked their dog in these times, right? Like, I can't walk a dog, or have you just gone to play gin rummy with them on a weekend? You know, for those who don't understand, like, the little things, the little interactions with life for some veterans is everything. And that means, like, they look forward to this little bit of time because it makes them feel like a person again, or it gives them that little bit of life that, oh, there's niceness in the world or something, right? Because a lot of us are just one switch away from just not being the same person that you know.
Yes.
Let's say it like that, right?
Yeah.
And you know, in that, because like we're not all going to like just rampage and, you know, tear throats out.
No.
And, you know,
no.
Kill people and
like
machetes. But you know, my wife does not like when my voice is raised, and you know, and because it's not typically there. It has not gotten there very many times because, you know, I have learned to work on myself, and but like, you know,
but part of working on that is reaching out. You also reached and looked out for the assistance. You know, that helps. Having the assistance, getting the answers to your questions answered, all those things, all those little steps help you focus so you're not flipping that switch. You know?
Can I tell you what actually helped me focus?
What's that?
I studied hypnotherapy for a year.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that changed the game.
Really?
Yeah.
Hypnotizing yourself, huh?
I'm not very good at hypnotizing myself.
Okay, I was just making sure. All right.
But I'll tell you,
because I know it can be dangerous when you do that. So,
you know, it can't. You
can't.
The body works. The mind works on the power of suggestions, right? Suggestions. So if you don't want to take a suggestion, you're not going to take it. So there's something called ab reactions, and an ab reaction is like if you're working with somebody and you have them under. Right. And so in conscious state, we talk about, and let me preface this, that I said that I'm not very good at self-hypnotizing.
That's what we're talking about, self-hypnotizing.
But there's two ways for me to buy into this whole thing, right? Because I went into the class, I was like, going into it as a psych major, I was like, oh shit, there's science behind here. Mm-hmm. And then, like, you know, there was some like woo-woo, there was some woo-woo stuff. I was like, oh, I'm not. And still, like,
say that again. You're what? You're not going with that?
I said that there was some woo-woo stuff where I was like, oh, I'm not okay with that, right?
All right. I just want to make sure they heard that because it broke up. So go ahead.
So what happened was, I was testing, you know, I was training. I worked on my wife, and her levels of bug phobia, arachna, or, you know, any type of bugs. I mean, it's night and day difference than what it used to be. And then my buddy, what really kicked, there were a couple things. One of my buddy, he was working on, he asked us to work on writer's block. And dude, he came over, we worked on him for about an hour and some change. The wife and I went to the beach with the kid, and then I hadn't heard from him for like 3 weeks. I was like,
wow.
Man, I don't know what happened, but he got back to me and he goes, hey man, I just want to let you know that after I went to your house, I was just in write mode. I wrote for like 2 weeks straight. He goes, I'm done with my first draft of the book. I was like, whoa, shit. So there, and then, but the one that really got me was there. I mean, there were a couple, right? One lady had one of my wife's friends had real high anxiety from the Northridge.
Oh wow!
It took 6 sessions. She let me try a lot of stuff,
wow.
Right? And we worked through it. But like they told us not to work with addicts, right? And being a former addict myself, like I had this insight, like, oh, I can work, you know, I can kind of navigate that. And so I was kind of cocky, and I was working with somebody who I care for, because of her story, and so she came, and she was very insistent because she was addicted to crack cocaine, and she was very insistent that we work together. She wasn't going to get help anywhere else. So I was like, okay, well, I'm obligated to go through this process with her. And so, we went somewhere like that scared her so much that I hadn't heard her. Like, man, it was like 18 months. She texted me and she's like, hey, I just want to let you know for 6 months.
Wow. She said it again. She's been what? She's been what?
She had been sober for 6 months when she texted me.
You hear that, folks?
She's still touched, and it's special because she just wanted her kid back, and so she was looking to do anything, and so she's like, I don't think it was the hypnosis, and it does. Here's the problem: like, we work with smokers a lot, right? It doesn't matter if they stop smoking, they're like, it wasn't. It doesn't matter, right? Because the suggestions, again, going back to this whole thing, the suggestions are, if you don't want that suggestion in your head, it's not going to take. So in the conscious state, what we do is we try to figure out what it is you want. And we say, like, let's say, hey, man, I'm looking for the woman of she's 6 foot.
Looking for the woman of your dreams, you said? Yeah.
And so we go through characteristics, and so, like, it might be like, oh, she's 6'2", she's blonde, she's got blue eyes, and she's a lawyer, right? So in this conscious state, we talk about that. But what happens is when we go into the subconscious state and watch my eyes, I will be saying the suggestions that we're getting into your head, and what will happen is when I say, oh, she's 6'4", and she's a redhead, your body starts kind of twitching a little bit, right? Because we're in this whole process of a deep state of relaxation. Your body's not moving, and I know we get there because of biofeedback. We've seen through biofeedback when we start to deeply relax and go deeper and deeper and deeper into the subconscious state, till you get into those deltas and those deep. Theta wave, brain
waves. Yeah.
Again, going back to the science, because we can talk woo-woo all day long, but unless you can...
Messages are sent through waves. Everything we receive are... Go ahead.
It's if you can show me proof, that's how I buy in. And so, so here you are, you're supposed to be in this deep relaxed state, and I'm feeding you suggestions that you don't want, right? The redhead. And she needs to be a dentist, right? Because she was supposed to be a lawyer. In conscious state, we've already talked about this. So you're trying to put these suggestions in my head that I don't want, and your body is doing these ab reactions. What that is your subconscious is like, hold up, wait a minute, that is not accurate, and I don't want that as a suggestion. However, how you work through processes of remediation and kind of working through, heartache and anxiety, and is that you keep pushing those suggestions that you want to believe, right? I do want a 6'4" model, whatever it is, or I am capable, I am, confident.
Affirmations.
And so, like, Tony Robbins had said it. I don't know if you've seen I Am Not Your Guru. But,
Tony Robbins, he always does that. Yeah. Yeah.
In I Am Not Your Guru, he talks about in the first 15 minutes, he's like, you think I was this person? He goes, no, I used to go on 6-mile runs and say, I'm a bad motherfucker for the whole run. And he says, you hear that 10,000 times in your head, and what do you believe?
You're a bad motherfucker. Yeah.
So, those are the suggestions that I'm talking about. And so, hypnotherapy, man, learning about that and learning about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, totally changed the game on what I was already privy to with how I already knew the mind, right? I'm very good at reading. Let me rephrase that. I believe I am good at reading people. And that's another thing that hypnotherapy teaches you, is that your belief systems, right, are not typically always the accurate thing. What you believe and what is it sometimes
Wait, go back. What you believe in? What? You cut out for a little bit there when you moved back from a mic.
I said what you believe in, what is actuality are two total things.
Yeah, they're two totally different things, I think you said. It must be getting a little choppy on the internet. Lost you a little bit there. Let's take a second real quick and let's come back. I'm going to go ahead and drop a load from my sponsor real quick, and we'll come back to the big screen real quick. Stay tuned. This is Doc Rio, and we're here with Robert Graves, director of the Disabled American Veterans California chapter. California, is that chapter, or how do you say that?
California.
Department of California Disabled American Veterans. That right now? Did I do that right finally?
You got it.
All right, cool. And podcaster, creator of Year of the Vet, and book writer. Can't forget about how to grow a beard. And I'm telling you all to go out there and buy it. It's on Amazon, right? You said Amazon? All right, yeah. Go out there and get How to Buy a Beard. Huh? Say again? What?
How to grow a beard, a military transition guide back into civilian life.
There it is. I love it. We'll be right back. This is a quick word from my sponsor.
Look at us up on Doc Rio TV.
See what happens here. Sorry about that, folks. We lost the stream for just a moment. That just happens sometimes, especially when it's, that late at night and, everything doesn't want to work at this point. But we will get it back on and grinding. Let's see here. For those just tuning in, we're here with Robert Graves. And for those who just coming back, Robert Graves is with the Department of California DAV. He is the director of operations there. And he is also the writer of a book, How to Grow a Beard. Oh, wow. Over 1 million copies sold. That is wow. But I hope I'm hearing you on this. Please let me say that you are being heard, because that would be like just the worst case. Yeah. Say that again. I hope I'm hearing you on this. Please let me say that you are being heard, because that would be like just Say that again. I hope I'm hearing you. I didn't hear anything yet. I haven't heard you say anything yet. I'm past that point. Can you hear me? Okay. I didn't hear anything. I'm past that point. Can you hear me? Okay. Oh, man. I don't have a mouse. Well, looks like technical difficulties just really didn't want the us to go over an hour. Knowing that we're at we've been alive a little bit long anyway, so but I'll put in a a little extra part, and we'll come back another time and we'll try this when I got everything set up. This is a new computer, man. It's a brand new computer. Just so you know. Brand new computer, not really brand new computer. It's a used computer I bought from somebody else, but I'm building another one. As you can see, I got a power supply back there, and I got some other parts. But I plan on having one to stream to and one to stream it, so we can, do this better. But you want to know something? While you doing all that eating this stuff, they can see you. They can see all that dude out there doop. I just showed the screen, like you can see over there. All right, man. All right, it's good talking with you. By the way, that's Robert Graves, and I wish I had some. Matter of fact, can you spit them to me real quick? Do you have any info you want to give out? Contact info at the DAV? Anything you want to give out, or any websites you want to give out, or any information you want to give people that they can go to and possibly, maybe not necessarily contact you, but contact somebody if they need some help, or contact anywhere, website, web info. I know I was supposed to prep you with that, and that was the one thing I was going to ask you, and I said I was going to just tell you, but since we're at this quick ending, maybe you have a link. You can tell me, and I can repeat it for you. He's like, I'm going to write it down. That's what's up. That's what's up. This is usually my outer anyway. So I only had one more question, and then we were going out with this part right here to talk about, the one more question was actually a couple of more questions, but they were pretty much about the year of the vet and where you want to go with it next. So that's what I really want to get people to hear that coming soon. I can hear you though, by the way, just so you know. He's like, I know, but then I couldn't hear him because he wasn't talking in his mic. And for those who don't know, who heard earlier that, we are in the same fraternity. He's actually my Uncle Big. That means he is my Big's brother. So, Year of the Vet, www.yearofthevet.com. For those listening in, yearofthevet.com, hashtag Year of the Vet if you want to tag it on social media. And if you want to contact the DAV, that's Disabled American Veterans of California, or Disabled American Valley, that is California, go to davcal.gov. VAD, did I read that? I can't read that. .org, thank you. davcal.org. That's davcal.org. That's CAL for you don't know. But once again, check out Year of the Vet, and don't forget, come back and buy his book. Come back and buy his book, How to Grow a Beard. It's a guide for those of us, trying to get out of the military, trying to make our moves and trying to get our lives back together after we've lived under a structure that pretty much has everything prepared for us, taken care. How to grow a beard. And for those of us who love Troy, fight on. Victory. Yeah. Yeah, baby. And once again, like I said before, thank you again, Robert, for coming out. And I hope you have a great evening. Great evening with the family. Peace. I don't have a mouse, so it's going to stay on these double screens until I go. But once again, thanks again for coming out. And that's the Director of Operations with the Department of California Disabled American Veterans. And if you or someone you know is having thoughts of harming themselves, please contact the VA Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Thanks for stopping by, and stay tuned for more In the Hot Box with Doc Rio, as we'll come back tomorrow with a regular lesson series. Our regular lesson series starts tomorrow at 1 p.m., and we'll talk about ways you can still climb up while you're stuck at home in the middle of a pandemic. We'll see you soon. Thank you again for Robert Graves, and I'm out of here. Peace. Love you all, but I got to go.
Doc Real TV.